So I wanted to do a brief discussion regarding YCS Sac. And this is an opinion coming from my friend Forbes. This is a guy I go to locals with. Not official, at non-OCS events. They're not real. Went 2-3-3 with Mimigul Cash at Sac. Deck feels funny as fuck. Also, in my opinion, while 900 attendance is most definitely low, I met lots more new players and first-time competitors at Sac than I have at any other YCS I've been to so far. So we're most likely not dying. We're just all tired of this format. Also, there was like 3 to 4 other events going on the same weekend. So also timing was a huge issue. Overall, I think Konami is hearing our complaints and are slowly moving forward. So if you guys didn't know, YCS Sac, for like a very populated area, had one of the lowest attendances like ever. Like Sacramento/California is one of the biggest Yu-Gi-Oh areas, in large quotations, in regards to like America. There's like New York, there's like Pennsylvania, maybe Florida, and then there's like all of California. And despite California being like a massive hub for this all, it had 913 people, which when you compare it to like every other YCS that's been going on where it's like 2,000 people, 1,500 people, 1,800 people, 900 people is like, that's like barely bigger than a Latin American YCS. Everyone is talking about how the format is actually skillful because Jesse won, and then the first thing Jesse says on stream is, I got very lucky. This is like a debate that I have with like Jesse sometimes regarding the state of the format in regards to how sacky it is. When you look at deck lists, there isn't really much quote-unquote skill that goes on outside of play the tiniest engine you possibly can that can kill your opponent. So either this or like a Snake Eye Wanted Fiendsmith engine, and then just play as many bombs or massive combinations of hand traps as possible. Like we got triple Perulia, triple Shifter, more board breaker, board breaker, board breaker, board breaker, hand trap, and then to the side, board breaker, board breaker, board breaker. There's like a billion hand traps. Also wasn't attendance low because Pokemon Worlds is also the same weekend. Let's be fucking real here. A, every single person who's going to YCS Sac also weighing Pokemon Worlds. And even if they did, B, not everyone who goes to Pokemon Worlds plays Yu-Gi-Oh! A very small amount of people in general play more than one card game. Most people are very much like, I am only going to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Or I am only going to play Magic, or I'm only going to play Pokemon, or I'm only going to play Digimon / Bushy Road, whatever it's called. This format's in a very frustrating spot because if you look at deck lists, like you better be playing at minimum like 15 to 18 hand traps unless you're on like a For Fun deck like Madolche or something like that. Otherwise, you're just gonna be trolling. You need at least like 2 hand traps in order to beat like Fiendsmith Snake Eye, unless they open all 3 extenders, in which in that case you need, you know, like Valor and Nibiru at like minimum. And people just aren't a fan of formats where you kind of just show your opponent your opening hand and are like, all right, this is either full combo or I'm normal summoning Ash and passing. And then you look at your opponent's hand and it's also 3 hand traps and you're just like, well, this fucking Rescue Ice Fire Hydrant better resolve, otherwise I'm gonna cry. But this is also like a fake format issue where I was talking with Dyer about this in the sense where we're kind of in a fake format right now. When you actually look at, you know, the ban list that Konami promised, it's gonna come sometime within these couple days, within the next 1 or 2 weeks. We're getting a ban list, like that's guaranteed. But because YCS Sacramento has no new products and no Rage of the Abyss, no new ban list until, you know, after the event, and it's part of a format that people have been playing for like the past 6, 7, 8 months, why would anyone want to play this? Why would anyone want to be at this specific event? It's just so fraudulent. Like maybe you, if you really like Fiendsmith Snake Eye, if you're really that good on, I really want the Snake Eye Ash to resolve, like what's the point, you know? Like who cares? It sucks. What also doesn't help is that this event kind of just guarantees that we're gonna get the Another Verse cycle. I guarantee you guys that the next 3 prize cards are going to be Another Verse card. We're gonna have Another Verse Dragon to be like, you know, it's gonna be a light. Then we're gonna have Glutinia, who's gonna be a dark. And now we have Another Verse Solaria, who's going to be a fire. Then we're gonna have a water, and we're gonna have a wind and an earth. That's what I'm assuming is going to be the cycle of current prize cards, because I'm assuming Konami doesn't want to print valuable prize cards. But again, this sort of bleeds into the issue of, OMG, Konami, we need some good prize support. Otherwise, people are going to be very burnt out and play this game professionally or long term and feel that this game is very frustrating to play. Because we all know a lot of pro players are leaving the game because they feel like their sort of quote unquote efforts aren't being properly rewarded. And I'm not saying that like every card game needs to give you like $1 billion in prize support for like popping a remote regional, even though I wish that they did. But they do need to make these events feel like they're worth winning, in the sense of you are gaining more than just random status whenever you manage to top an event. You know what I mean? You're not just the guy who, wow, he sure topped an event. event, you're a guy who, you know, topped an event and actually got something, you know, in reward for it. You actually worked for something, you know, that has some sort of value outside of a Nintendo Switch and a vanilla. Like, I was talking with Brian Chen during the event. People were just like selling Nintendo Switches for like 140 bucks. It was hella funny. Did you see Gaozo's idea for prize cards? No. Doing full arts? Sure. They look cool on paper. And then you realize this is like horrible to read. And like, okay, one of the big issues of Yu-Gi-Oh cards is that, I'ma be real, this is the Yu-Gi-Tuber boomer text, but they have too much text on them. This is a thing that works really well for rush duels. Because when you look at a rush duel card, it's very purposely designed to be very artwork centric focused, because I mean, like, look at the fucking card. It has like 2 lines of text. And even when you're looking at cards with maybe a bit more text, I don't even know if this card is real, but it's nowhere as, you know, girthy as a Yu-Gi-Oh text box. Magic the Gathering does this super duper well because their cards at most maybe have like 3 lines of text on them for the most part. And that, you know, that sort of leads into the art being able to be sort of drawn like this, as well as the fact that the formatting of the card is purposely changed in order to accommodate these. You can also see this in like secret layers where some of the cards are reformatted in a specific way, and it's very easy to do so in Magic the Gathering because these cards, you know, they don't really have walls of text and stats and keywords and blah 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 the same way Yu-Gi-Oh does. And even if they do, they are able to be formatted because there's just not as much text. Yu-Gi-Oh, how the fuck do you fit this on text? It's gonna look horrendous. And if you want to keep like the original Yu-Gi-Oh like sort of look to it, it's just gonna look super shitty. So you either have to adopt cards that have very small lines of text. Think of like Harpy's Feather Duster or Raigeki or, you know, stuff like that. Like that might work, but this also kind of looks shitty. I'll be real. Like the giant glaring text box just looks so, it's just a Yu-Gi-Oh issue where the formatting of like the text box, the symbols, all that sort of stuff, it's very much not as clean relative to other card games, unfortunately. So unless Konami wants to talk to like interior design on how to sort of fix this and make it not look garbage, like I don't know how I would feel about, you know, just having a card be a full art. This looks horrendous, I'll be real. Another thing I did want to kind of talk about in regards to YCS Sac is that there is a surprising amount of new players joining the game. It's also coming at the cost of old players rotating out, which I'm not 100% sure is, you know, a good thing. Because a lot of my friends, they were mentioning like, hey, in like the early rounds, they were going against people that were new or people who had traveled across the country in order to play at their first YCS, or people who were like local but wanted to play at an event. But just because a lot of new players are rotating into the game, it doesn't automatically mean that they're going to stay within the game. Because let's be real, if a new player's first experience is fucking Snake Eye Fiendsmith format where their deck of like 15 hand traps, they're like, OMG, I opened 2 hand traps with starter, and it just doesn't do anything, and their opponent ends up making like the Exodia board versus them, they're gonna be like, why did I even try? Why did I even show up for this event? And if they're super nihilistic, they're just gonna be like, all right, maybe this isn't for me. I'm gonna go back to playing like Commander, and they're gonna sell their cards. So just because people are joining these events, which is a very good thing, again, I do want this game to succeed, and I do enjoy the game, but it's just very frustrating to see Konami do issues like this. It's just gonna be this super big headache where old players are rotating out of the game because the game is just super unfun and will realistically keep up this level of power and one card starters in the near future. It's going to be extremely frustrating in the future. Like pro players are going to be leaving this game in order to find games that like better respect them, where even though they maybe only get like 70 to 80% of the enjoyment out of Yu-Gi-Oh, playing like Magic or Digimon, the pricing is going to be like a billion times better. And like new players that are cycling in might not even like this game that much. The number one example I could give of new players who have joined the game is Master Duel. Ludwig's Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. It's the #1 Master Duel video. It's not even close. And it was like this relatively poorly run event. It was a fucking for fun casual event. Who gives a shit? Like where all the decks were imbalanced and people played this game for like 3 weeks, maybe like 2 or 3 months at most, where YouTubers were playing it like on and off, and Rosemi Lovelock is still kind of playing this game. But there's a reason why when you look at Master Duel's like trending player data, this game has literally been nothing but on the decline. Like 260,000 peak, now it's only at like a 13 to 25,000 at best. Average players maybe like 15 to 20,000 compared to the start. That is horrible. You don't ever want to be at like a 10% play rate. It's arguably lower. So again, that's another 20 minutes of me whining about Yu-Gi-Oh and game dying, Konami do better, and bad format and lack of player support. Again, it's just very frustrating to see another event where Konami definitely had ample time to prepare to make Sacramento maybe like a very fresh new event with a new format, better prize structure, better support for the pros, better support for the casuals, maybe do some preemptive hits for like an emergency ban list or just like anything. But Konami just hasn't, and it's just a headache. It's frustrating to be in this position, but that's just me. Let me know if you guys attended YCS Sacramento. Let me know what your guys' thoughts on it and everything in between. And yeah, it's gonna be it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.